Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. Holm, in a possible return to boxing, could take on Chantel Cameron.
That wasn't on my bingo card.
Holm, fresh off a release from her deal with the UFC, could be returning to boxing. Manager Lenny Fresco has told Boxing Scene that he's been fielding offers from various promoters for the International Boxing Hall of Fame inductee, Holm, who held titles in 3 weight classes as a boxer before switching her focus to MMA in 2015, has not competed in boxing since 2013 after her shutout win over Mary McGee. Although Holm sought and secured her UFC release last week, Fresquez says the 43-year-old from Albuquerque, New Mexico, isn't closing the door on a return to MMA, but rather opening her horizons to the best offers.
And I said it in my previous video, I think she would make more news returning to boxing than continuing in MMA.
The direction that she's looking in is whatever pays her the most money, Fresquez told Boxing Scene. The titles don't mean nothing to her. She's gotten titles. She's still saying she wants to fight the best girls in the world. Among the matchups being pitched Holmes' way is Chantel Cameron, who currently holds the WBC interim junior welterweight title.
If she were to beat Chantel Cameron, that would line Holly up for a Katie Taylor fight.
The 33-year-old Northampton, UK Cameron, 20-1 with 8 KOs, is a former undisputed junior welterweight champion, best remembered for splitting a pair of fights with Katie Taylor. Fresquez insists that even with Holm, 33-2 with 3 draws and 9 knockouts, having been out for a decade, she would still be the bigger draw for the fight due to her greater name recognition and social media following. I know that girl. She needs a fight, Fresquez said of Cameron. She fought Katie Taylor, but it didn't really do nothing for her. She's literally unknown. She doesn't have many followers, and Holly has close to 3 million fans. Fresquez said that he has had conversations with Queensbury CEO George Warren about that matchup, and is scheduled to speak with him again this week.
Of course, Fresquez is going to take a position like that for the fighter that he represents, but he's not wrong. Holly is more well-known in the combat world than Chantel Cameron is, though Chantel is one of the best in the world right now.
It's a tough fight. The girl is tough, Fresquez continued about Chantel. Usually Holly has a size advantage, but in this particular fight she wouldn't. The girl is very good. She beat Katie Taylor, so she must be solid. Even if she's been out of boxing for 10 years, Holly is still a lot bigger name than her, so Holly is still the A-side. Fresquez says he should know this week whom Holm will be fighting and in which sport. Holm, who immortalized herself in combat sports history when she won the UFC bantamweight title in 2015 with a knockout of the previously unbeaten Ronda Rousey, has kept her options open. Speaking on the Ariel Helwani show, Holm suggested that she could return to boxing or perhaps join the Global Fight League, an MMA league with city-based teams that is set to launch this April. She admits there could still be some goals to achieve in women's boxing, which has blossomed in the decade since she last competed, thanks largely in part due to its inclusion in the Summer Olympics. When I boxed, I fought at 140, 147, and 154, Holmes said. I never fought at 135 in boxing, so sometimes I feel like that's unfinished business. Do I go back? The people that have belts at that weight are Amanda and Katie, so sometimes it's like, is that unfinished business? Because that's most of my fights in MMA. The majority of them were at 135, but I never fought at 135 in boxing, so who knows? Holm last fought in April of 2024, losing by submission in the second round to Kayla Harrison at UFC 300.
She's wrong. Katie and Amanda don't hold any titles at 135. All of Katie's belts she holds are from 140, and Amanda holds titles at 126.
Fresquez told Boxing Scene that Holm has been hard at work for the past 3 months at the Jackson Wink MMA, same gym she has trained for 25 years, reacclimating to boxing under trainer Mike Winklejohn. Fresquez adds that he has also spoken with Nikisa Badarian, who partnered with Jake Paul to co-found MVP, which represents Serrano and WBO super middleweight champion Jadeja Green. He also said he's spoken with representatives of KSI, the English influencer, who serves as CEO for Misfits Boxing. It just depends, Fresquez said. We'll see what offers Nikisa comes up with. Nikisa had some interesting things to say. We'll see what the Jake Paul and KSI teams and the other teams have to offer. Fresquez remarks that the climate around women's boxing does look very different from the days when he would have to organize his own independent pay-per-view broadcasts for fights out the Route 66 casino to keep Holm's career moving. There's a lot more money in the sport now and a lot more opportunity. I'll be honest, whether it's her next fight or 2 to 3 fights from now, after some tune-ups, I don't think Holly can beat Chantel Cameron.
Sorry, and I'm a big fan of Holly.
But Chantel Cameron, and doing a dance with her, she can put an end to Holly's comeback before it even begins. So what she might want to do is look at 135.
Very soon, El Paso, Texas's Stephanie Hahn is going to be challenging for the newly vacated WBA title, and I expect her to win that fight. Stephanie Hahn is a lot less experienced than Holly Holm and every other champion at that weight.
If she wins that WBA title, out of the 4 champions that are there, she would be the weakest link. I think that Holly Holm should keep her eyes on that fight and go after Stephanie. Go after Stephanie's WBA title. Now, that's not as big a fight as a Chantel Cameron fight. It's not.
But this is a 2-pronged process. You have Holly fight Stephanie for the WBA so that Holly can bring it to an Amanda Serrano fight.
Or do it in reverse. Have Amanda go after Stephanie Hahn. Have Amanda win the WBA title while Holly Holm has a couple of tune-up fights, and then you do the fight between them.
Because Holly hasn't boxed in a very long time. She's gonna need tune-ups, and you need to sell the idea that she stands a chance.
A little marination is required for this fight to be everything that it can be. A fight between Amanda and Holly, 2 legends of the sport.
That's how I would play it.
I think it would send a stronger message if you had Holly win the belt from Stephanie instead of Amanda, because most people are going to pick Amanda to beat Stephanie, whereas Holly has something to prove. She has to prove that she's still got it.
And it's a much less complicated situation than pursuing Chantel via Queensbury. Stephanie's not with a major promotional outfit, so you can make a fight between her and Holly or Amanda relatively easy. Little friction. You can offer Stephanie more money, far more money than she's been making with the fights that she's had so far, so she will be receptive. I think Holm versus Hahn is the play. It should be the next play en route to Amandia.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, some changes have been made to the upcoming Ring Magazine card, according to Turkey Alalshikh himself. The Ring Magazine is excited to announce its first boxing card in the USA this May in collaboration with the video game Fatal Fury by SNK.
The card will include Devin Haney versus Jose Ramirez, Martin Bacoli versus F.A. Ajagba, and now Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero. Instead of Isaac, he's facing Rolly.
Could be any number of reasons why they went this route instead of the Isaac Cruz route. It could be that the turnaround is too quick for Isaac. Isaac is about to fight next month, to then turn right around and fight Ryan in May.
It could be that the turnaround is too quick for Isaac, or it could be that the fight is too risky for Ryan.
Ryan Garcia, who the night of will not have boxed for a year and 1 month, whereas Isaac would have seen action just a few months prior. That where Ryan would be shaking off ring rust, Isaac would be primed and ready to go. Could be that way.
It's too risky. The end game is a Devin Haney rematch, a Devin Haney trilogy. You want to ensure that Ryan makes it there, and against Isaac, it's not a foregone conclusion that he would.
Whereas with Rolly, he stands a better chance because Rolly got knocked out by Isaac, and Rolly, if you've seen him, he isn't any good. Though still adding some character to the card, America's penchant for making idiots famous, that's what Rolly is.
So they conjured up another PBC fighter at a time when Gervonta Davis says he don't want nothing to do with Turkey.
Would seem that the PBC does. Good number of their fighters. So far, Frankie Sanchez has fought on a Riyadh season card, Rayo Valenzuela, Isaac Cruz, very soon, Carlos Adames,
And now Rolly.
Ryan versus Rolly, like Ryan versus Isaac, is a fight that was talked about as a fight they tried to make some time ago, but Rolly decided to fight Isaac instead, ended up getting knocked out and losing his WBA title. As luck would have it, they've spun the block and that opportunity has come back around. Talk about your dumb luck.
Dumb is right.
When you're talking about Rolly, it's not like the PBC had him doing anything because they didn't. I don't know what plans, if any, they had for Rolly Romero this calendar year, but it would seem that his next ring appearance will be against Ryan on one of Turkey's shows. His last one was on the undercard of Canelo Alvarez's last fight in September of last year. He won a unanimous decision against Manuel Jaimes.
Who's that?
Who indeed? Ryan versus Rolly is the right blend of idiocy that the Americans like, the dysfunction, the childlike behavior.
Smooth transition for the smooth brains.
It's not even that I think Rolly is any good or I think Rolly is of any value, but some other people do. Some other people are entertained by this character who is less pugilist and more parody.
All those guys that like to obsess over press conferences more than boxing matches, the actual boxing.
This does better Ryan's chances of making it to a Devin Haney fight. I want to say that, and that's likely what the focus is. They wanted to get somebody for Ryan that's interesting, somebody that the audience is familiar with, but not so good that Ryan might be in over his head, because he is coming off a lengthy stint of inactivity. Rolly is a better tune-up fight for Ryan than Isaac would have been. With Isaac,
It's risky. Jeopardizes the whole operation.
when the end game is delivering the American boxing community a Ryan versus Haney rematch, you don't want to match him too tough. Now, as far as Rolly, I have to give him credit because this guy's not a good fighter. He's not a good fighter at all, but he's managed to parlay what is a limited skill set in tandem with a sparkling personality into some decent money.
That there are better fighters out there than Rolly in the boxing cosmos that are never going to see the kind of money that he's making for what is a very limited skill set.
Main appeal of Rolly Romero ain't his boxing so much as his sound bites and stuff that he says in interviews.
It's really stupid when you think about it.
Ryan swoops in and knocks this guy out now. It's not going to mean much because, well, Rolly's already been knocked out by Gervonta and knocked out by Isaac.
If he gets knocked out by Ryan, what does it really mean?
Not a lot. It didn't mean a lot when Gervonta Davis did it. It doesn't mean much now. And this fight will be presumably going down above 140 pounds.
Welterweight.
Rolly is strong. He is a strong puncher for what it's worth, but he's lacking in most every other area. And where he's a strong puncher, so is Ryan. Strong enough, I think, that he can stop Rolly. He can take him out.
He should.
So is Rolly Romero still with the PBC? Are any of these fighters making appearances on Turkey's cards?
Yeah, they still might be. Rumor has it that Turkey's working closely with the PBC.
Their salvation, and what feels like fulfillment of a prophecy that I specified not that long ago, that in a situation where you don't have a lot of money and you don't have a lot of fight dates, but you do have a lot of fighters that you need to accommodate, the best that you can do in that situation is outsource them and get a percentage of their purse. You can make money that way. And given Turkey Alalshikh's penchant for paying fighters above market value, if you outsource enough of your fighters, you can get back a nice chunk of change at no risk to you because you're not putting up any money.
But you're still making it.
What do you really get doing a fight for a Carlos Adames anyway? What do you really get out of doing a fight for Rolly?
Not a lot.
But if you let somebody else do it and you take your percentage of his purse off the top since he's still your fighter, you get to make some money.
Everything comes full circle. Everything comes full circle. And a lot of times what happens is people don't have an objective opinion. They have a stance, and their opinion is based on where they're standing. When PBC rolls out Rolly Romero as a main event, it's a joke. When it's a pay-per-view, it's a joke. When you have to pay for it, it's a joke. This is why they give us trash. They're killing boxing. Who wants to watch Rolly Romero in a main event? But now, Turkey Alalshikh's going to roll out Rolly Romero in a main event. He's going to roll him out in a pay-per-view. He's going to roll him out a card with Jose Ramirez versus Devin Haney as a co-main. And these guys are going to say with a straight face that this is good for boxing. They're going to say with a straight face that this is a card that they're excited for. And look at this is what Turkey brings to boxing. You're not going to hear the criticism. You're not going to hear the criticism because people don't have an objective opinion. They have a stance, and their opinion is from where they're standing.
It's really not the gotcha moment that Easy Raw Boxing is making it out to be. What he's trying to do is use this fight as a means to point out double standards. That if Haymon uses Rolly in a main event for a pay-per-view, he gets criticized for it, but if Turkey does it, he gets praised.
For starters, I don't see many, if any, people jumping for joy that Isaac Cruz has been swapped out for Rolly.
Maybe I missed it, but I didn't hear about any ticker tape parade that it's going to be Rolly fighting Ryan instead of Isaac. And what you're failing to point out are the differences.
Deliberately.
When Al Haymon uses Rolly Romero in a main event for a pay-per-view, the pay-per-view runs you anywhere in between $75 to $80 for what is a forgettable undercard.
$80.
Whereas the going rate for a Turkey Alalshikh pay-per-view is $25. $25. 3 times less than what Al Haymon charges you. Strange that you failed to mention that pivotal detail. You seem to be up to date with everything else that Turkey's doing, but I guess you weren't up to date with that, up to speed, that Turkey doesn't want boxing fans paying more than $25 for a pay-per-view moving forward.
That's a big difference.
Big difference in the undercard. You're not just getting Ryan and Rolly in the main event. You're getting Devin Haney on that same show too. Devin Haney.
You don't normally get a lot of shows where you have both a Ryan Garcia and a Devin Haney boxing on the same card in tandem with Ajagba versus Bakoli, which is a great fight unto itself.
For just $25, which is less than what you pay to take your broad out to the movies. It's a pretty major detail. To a lot of people, it's the only detail that counts. The price point. That Turkey's pay-per-views don't cost as much as ours, but you get more bang for your buck.
So you're telling me in 2025 people are still going up to bat for Al Haymon?
Because what is he doing if not defending Al Haymon? That we criticize Al for using Rolly on a pay-per-view, well, we should be criticizing Turkey.
That's what he's saying. That's the crux of it.
You keep trying to force people to be nice to Al Haymon when they have raised legitimate gripes, legitimate concerns, year after year, and now his PBC is suffering for it. Oh, I remember when they first inked that Amazon deal, all of the high hopes that guys like Easy Raw Boxing had for the future of PBC, but what did I tell you? What did I tell you?
This is not what you think it is.
12 months later, and only 5 cards between them, now do you see what I was talking about? I don't know what specifically guys like Easy Raw Boxing like about Al Haymon's PBC so much.
Maybe it just boils down to preference. I don't know, but I don't have to.
Though if you insist on playing the gotcha game with all of your whataboutisms, it's important to include all the major details. That Turkey's pay-per-views don't cost as much as ours, but they're better decorated. There's better fights on them.
For less money.
This is just your dry way of questioning Turkey's contribution to the sport of boxing, as if delivering us not 1, but 2 undisputed title fights, historic ones, wasn't enough.
You should be thanking him for keeping Al's fighters busier than Al has been keeping them.